Hi, I'm Tim Rice with Whitestone Homes. I want to show you how to read a plan. I want to show our customers how they're supposed to look over the plan and how they can make sure that it's going to be the plan that they want. So I'm going to go over symbols and a few other things. So what you want to do in the beginning is really look at the overview of the entire plans. And if you can kind of show this a little bit right here, you've got an elevation of the front, you've got a cutaway, and you have elevations of the side and the roof. This is a typical plan that's drawn from Whitestone Homes, okay? And then you flip through, you want to just kind of want to make sure and look at it and say, hey, this is the plan that I want to build. I look at each one of the sides. And then I look at the floor plan aspect of it, and I look over it and I say, okay, yeah, this is my plan. And if you can come in here, you can see all the revisions. So on this particular customer, we went through many revisions, and we end up with soft list final, which is when we're done. And at that point, we have our buyers sign off on the plan as the controlling documents for the construction of the new home. And it's also got the buyer's name on it, your name on it, and it'll have your address. So in general, we look at that. Let's flip through the rest of the pages. We've also got a little more detail on this because it's got a joist layout, if you can see here. And this tells us something about the ceilings, which I'll go into in a few minutes. So what I'd like for you to do is think conceptually, because a lot of times people have been scanning in on me. A lot of times people say they can't see in 3D or understand plans. Well, if you just close your eyes and think and sit back and think about a building or a design that you've been through, that you can think through. Maybe it's your office building, maybe it's current home that you're in, maybe it's a model home, a Whitestone model home that you've gone through, and think about the spaces, think about the heights of the ceiling, think about the widths, think about the depths, think about the finishes of them, how the doors lay out, how, grabbing handles, to just kind of walk through that building a little bit, okay? I'm sure everybody can do that. That's essentially what we're going to do here, okay? So let's go back through that, and let's start with the front, because this is what the front of the home looks like. And you'll see many dimensions. They're all done in feet and inches. So this dimension's 11.4, and this is how the framer lays it out. This shows what kind of window it is. This shows that there's this is what you call a single hung window, where this is a fixed pane, and this is an operating window here. You can see them all the way through. These are just a fixed glass window, and that's the way that looks. Beyond that, you're seeing basic details about how the home is built. You can tell right here that this is stucco. You can tell that this is brick or a rock. You can see some of the metal details around some of the windows. You can see some of the architectural fenestrations as we go across the top of this tower. Okay, so that's the front of the house. We figured that out. Okay, let's look at another detail here. This is the square footage, the total living. There's no second floor on this particular home. How big the garage is, how big the front porch and rear porch for a total coverage. And why that's important is because a lot of our vendors and trades are paid off of total coverage, not just square footages, which most customers think about. The next thing that we go to is, and you always want to kind of look at a home in the same way. So you either want to go right or you want to go left. And in this case, we're just going to go right. So we've gotten to this point on the plan. Now let's go over here to the right, and let's carry it across. You can see the porch. This is opened up. You can see how this structure comes together. You can see that you got a tile roof. You can see the windows. You can see some of the dimensions. This line right here is a spot where the building actually turns back. And if you want to look at the overview of the roof, here's where it turns back. That's where that line is, okay? All this stuff ties together. And then we go all the way around the back. We see the windows to see how those are done, okay? And then we go around all the way to the back. We're mentally walking all the way around the home. And again, you can see windows is probably this is probably the master right here, where you have the single hung windows, where you have operable windows. You see that line there. And then we come through here. This is a back porch with a cedar web truss patio, which is really popular with us. and it's also got single hung windows with transom windows above them. That's what those are called. Those separate windows are transom. And in this particular case, this is a rear entry home or a garage rear. It's got an alleyway, and it's rather unique. Now we're going to continue to walk visually around the home, around to the left-hand side, where you can see operable windows and transom windows on the just above them, and then we carry around. Now we've looked at completely the entire house. One thing that we haven't looked at is a section. Now this may not be as important to our typical customer, but you can see it'll give you a feel for how some of the ceiling heights are figured in, and some of the cabinet elevations, and how it lays out. It basically is just taking that house and cutting it into a section. It allows the framer to figure out how the framing is going to go, and like that. Now, let me take you, now we're going to flip the page and we're going to walk through the home. And this is the way you need to walk through it, okay? You start at the very beginning. You're walking in here, just visualize yourself as a person walking through here. And you're going to get dimensions, and you're going to get ceiling heights. And so as I walk through here, I can see myself stepping up in here, and then I can see right here I've got a 16-foot ceiling. So I'm thinking up, you know. And as you're walking through this mentally, if you'll actually think about yourself, you know, getting, you know, looking up and seeing what that looks like, okay? Now, what does the ceiling of that porch look like? Well, that's why we have a ceiling joist plan, okay? And here it is. Now I'm looking at this. It's flat because there's no angles to it, okay? That's how I figure out what that ceiling looks like. And if you'll look as we go inside, you can see that see that the little dotted line? That means that's a curved entryway, okay? And now we're going to go into the entryway, okay? As we walk in here, it's a double door. It's a 6-foot wide door that's 8 foot high. So if you can see that, it says 6080. You always do widths first, height second. And it shows how they both operate and open in. And then you can tell it says, it's got another dotted line, and it says barrel ceiling, and it says that it's 10 feet high, okay? So can you see that as you walk through that? Now I said we were going to turn right as we go through each one of the rooms. I want to make sure that we continue to do that. So we've gone through the entry. I know what the entry looks like. I am looking into what is a study, which has got 2 5'8" doors. That means the entire unit is 5 feet 4 wide, and it's 8 feet tall. I'm walking into this room, and the ceiling height says right there it's 12 feet at this spot, and it's 13 at this spot. So it pops up right here. Now we can look at the joist plan, okay, to make sure that we know what's happening here. And you can see it right here. You can see where these beams create a pop-up, or what's known in the trade as a coffered ceiling, okay? So now we've got that ceiling, we've got that room, it's got a ceiling fan in it, it's got carpet on the floor, it's got plugs. If you can, Mike, that is a 110 outlet, okay? It's a circle with 2 lines coming out of it. That shows it as a 110. If it was a circle with 3, it would be a 220, and that is a detail, okay? And you've obviously got the ceiling fan. It says 2 pieces of crown, so that means there's 2 pieces of crown in there. It shows the windows, which are a little bit cut off, but it looks like it says 30116. I'm sorry, it's 3070 SH, which is single hung, okay? And that's just an operable window. That's what they call those. Now, Mike, if you can come over here, here's some other electrical symbols. That show that S with a line in it is a switch, and this dashed line to the fan shows that you have one for the fan, well, you have one for the fan, and then you have one for the light. Okay, see how there's 2 in there? And then there's dimensions that allow the framer to do what he needs to do. There's another symbol right here that looks like a V with a T in it. That's TV. That is a cable. That's what we have in there. Now we've covered all the symbols in that room. Now, as we come back out, let's look at the ceiling of the foyer. I didn't mention this when we were there, but that circle with the 4 lights on it, that is a flush mount ceiling fixture. Now, if you as a buyer pick a hanging fixture, it can hang from that, but that's typically what that's showing. So now we come into the dining room, and let's look at we have some slopes here. You can see that it's sloping into the middle. So this is a peaked roof in the dining room, and we can look at the joist plan. And again, this will allow us, you can see that these are framing members that come up at an angle, come up at an angle, come up at an angle, okay? And so we completely walk through that room. Now we're going to take this same process and we're going to walk completely through the entire house like this. And we're going to walk through the family room, and we're going to walk through and we're going to look at it as if we're seeing it for the first time. This is another one of those. We look for the ceiling heights, and we see that we got a 15-foot ceiling in the middle, okay, with a dotted line. If you can show that, Mike. And then you got 14 along the side. We have another coffered ceiling in here, okay? Now, that defines really what that room looks like. And if you want to look through to see what it looks all the way through and what it's going to look like coming out of your family room windows, which is really important, looking out on the porch that we saw earlier from the elevation, we're going to flip back and we're going to look at what that rear elevation looks like. Okay, so we went 14 and 15 in here and as a ceiling in this room, and this is what you're seeing coming out of the back. You've got the individual windows with the transom above, and then the porch that you're going to be able to see some of the ceiling truss right here. So this is going to be a very dramatic room, and it's important that you see all that. So we're seeing a lot of cool stuff here. I can't wait to see this home start. We're under construction with it right now. We're clearing the lot. You'll see some other symbols in here where it's this box. It's similar to the symbol we saw in the entryway where it's a circle with 4 lines coming off of it. This is boxed, and that is a can light. It is a light that's recessed into the ceiling. It's a recessed can light. You see the R with that. You also see the dash line to the S with a line in it. That is a switch. And if you can really get close in there, you can see a 3, and that's showing that it's a 3-way switch. So where you can switch, it's a big, what they call a 3-gang box that operates not only the can lights, but it operates the ceiling fan and the ceiling fan light. And as we look across this room, we're looking to see what all this, now we know what the view out this way is, right? Now we're looking at the fireplace, okay? We've got some additional drawings in the plan which are called interior elevations, which Mike, you're showing us a good picture of here, okay? And this is what the fireplace looks like with the cabinets attached to it, and then the arches. It shows this box out and this box out. And if you look back here in the family room, you can see the actual dimensions. And it will say 4'6" by 8'0", okay? So again, it's width and height, okay? So it's 4 foot wide, and this is adding to the dimension. You can see some more can lights right here, and then Mike, there's some other symbol right here. Remember we talked about the circle with 2 lines in it? That's a 110 plug, but it says FP. That's a floor plug, okay? So that's where they place that floor plug. That will really define that room. Now as we go into the kitchen, again, let's be cognizant of what the ceiling heights are. The ceiling pops up to 15 here and pops back down to, comes down to 14. Well, that 14 feet carries all the way into that ceiling. So if you can visualize that, and now we're looking at the kitchen island, we're looking at the cooktop and additional brick in there. And Mike, if you can come up here to the oven cooktop wall, okay? So you're seeing what that area looks like as it's elevated. And then if you can come over here, here's the sink wall. Now this is on what I would consider the business side of it, because it's the side that's looking into the family room that has the dishwashers and all the drawers. And while we're on this point, there's interesting things here. You can see those are all drawers, okay? And you can see these are all cabinets with doors that open out. You can see that V, that means that cabinet opens like this. And the same thing here. And you can see the width of them, 24s, 36s, 24 for the entire base, okay? So as we get into the kitchen, we've got some other things that are interesting to look at. We've talked about some of these symbols. There's another symbol right here. It says GFI. That is a ground fault interrupter. And in any wet area, your 110 plugs have to have that. Right next door to that is a circle with a triangle in it, and that is for phones or Cat5 cable, depending on what you've picked. Here's a spot that says REF, which is obviously a refrigerator. And you can see some other fun symbols, which are there's a line that comes out with a cross on it, and that is for water. Okay, so that's for your ice maker box. And Mike, if I can get you to come over here, here's another water symbol right here, which is it just looks like a Christian cross. That is for cold water. If it came out and had a line with two slashes through that, would be hot water. And it says hose bib, or HB right there, which is what that symbol's for. Now, if you can come in here, you can see as the cabinets go through here, you'll see this little line with the little dash as it goes through that. What that's showing is a masonry, rock, or brick wall. So if you can come back up here to the elevation detail, you can see that it's depicted as rock with a vent hood, and you get a lot more detail as you go through that. Okay, so while we're on symbols, I want to point to the garage, and if you can come in with me right here, here's another symbol where it's got a big box with a line through it. That is a fluorescent light, and you can see how it's switched right here as we go through here. There's other symbols which shows us how big the wall needs to be. This is a 2x6 walls. You'll see that all the way through the plan. Okay, so we walked through the kitchen, we've walked through the family room, we've talked about the garage. Some of the other rooms are basically done the same way, where you walk through, you look at what the ceiling heights as we go into some of these hallways and into these rooms. They'll always have the ceiling heights. They'll have how the room's configured. They'll have the window size. Like in this case, these are, there's some fixed glass in here, which is FG. Okay, it shows the ceiling heights in here as well, where it's got, thank you, it's got the slope of the ceiling, so you can see this dotted line. So this ceiling goes to 11 feet, but it goes down to a 9-foot plate right here, which is the height of the structure as it comes all the way around. We can also double check the height by looking at it here on the joist plan. I know this is a little bit confusing, but you can double check to see this slopes up, so it comes at a bit of an angle and it flattens out here, and that's what this is showing. I can show those same symbols right here in this room where it's called a coffered ceiling. It pops up and then it flattens out. Let's go through here. This happens to be the master bath, and it's all completely flat all the way through here. We can go in the master, and you can see this is a pop-up. It's got another coffer to where you've got two different heights here. There's a legend of symbols. As I said earlier, 220 is 3 lines, okay? Let's see, the GFI we talked about earlier, the phone we talked about earlier. One that we didn't talk about is a smoke detector, and it's sort of a double hashed circle. Switch we talked about, 3-way switch we talked about, TVs we talked about. That's a vent, okay? And that's a vent light. So many times in bathrooms you'll have where it's a combination vent light, many times in the toilet area or water closet. And this is showing wall sconce. So this same process you take through all the rooms, and that should pretty much give you a good feeling for the heights, the symbols, what you're walking through, and what you're seeing. So I hope this is informative, and I hope it helps you understand better how to walk through a plan. In future episodes, I'll get into a little more detail about some of the other rooms, but I wanted to give a good overview so that when you go through your floor plans, you understand what you're looking at. So thank you very much. I'm Tim Rice with Whitestone Custom Homes.